I was 15 when my parents sat me down at the kitchen table and told me I was being shipped off like a defective Amazon package that nobody wanted to deal with. Not in those exact words, obviously. They used phrases like temporary arrangement and what's best for everyone, and my personal favorite, you'll understand when you're older. Spoiler alert, I'm older now. I understand perfectly. They wanted me gone. Trevor, honey, Mom said, sliding a glass of orange juice toward me like it was some kind of peace offering. We've been talking, and we think it would be really good for you to spend some time with Grandpa Frank and Grandma Dorothy. I blinked. Like, a weekend? Dad cleared his throat. That throat clear he does when he's about to say something he knows is terrible but is pretending it's reasonable. More like, indefinitely. Indefinitely, I repeated slowly, like I was trying the word on for size. As in, I'm moving? To the farm? Just for a while, Mom said brightly, in that voice she uses when she's trying to convince herself more than me. It'll be an adventure. An adventure, right? Like getting exiled to rural nowhere at 15 is the same as a gap year in Europe. Why? I asked. Silence. The kind of silence where you can hear the refrigerator humming and your own heartbeat getting louder. Finally, Dad said it. Cameron needs space. I stared at him. Cameron needs space. He's at a critical point in his development, Mom added, like she was reading from a parenting book written by someone who'd never actually met a child. He's applying to advanced placement classes, joining debate team, and frankly, the house is just a bit crowded. Crowded. We lived in a 4-bedroom house. There were 3 of us kids. Do the math. So I'm being sent away, I said flatly, so Cameron can have a quieter house to… What? Study in peace? Don't be dramatic, Dad said. Ah, yes, dramatic. The word parents use when they don't want to admit they're being objectively insane. You've always been more independent, Mom continued, reaching across to pat my hand like I was a dog she was about to surrender to a shelter. And Grandpa needs help on the farm anyway. It's a win-win. A win-win. I was being erased from my own home, and they were calling it a win-win. What about school? I asked. There's a perfectly good high school 20 minutes from the farm, Dad said. You'll be fine. What about my friends? You'll make new ones. What about Trevor? Dad's voice went firm. Final. The tone that means the conversation is over, and any further questions will be considered insubordination. This isn't a negotiation. We've already talked to your grandparents. They're expecting you next week. And that was it. No vote, no discussion, just a unilateral decision made by 2 people who were supposed to love me but apparently loved Cameron's GPA more. I went upstairs and started packing. My room, the one I'd had since I was 7, suddenly felt like a hotel I was checking out of. Posters on the walls that didn't matter anymore. A bed I wouldn't sleep in. A closet full of clothes I'd have to shove into 2 suitcases because, apparently, I was traveling light into my new life as farmhand Trevor. Cameron walked past my door, saw the suitcases, and paused. You're really going? He asked. I didn't look at him, just kept folding shirts. Guess so. That sucks, man, I laughed. Couldn't help it. A short, bitter sound. Does it, Cameron? Does it suck? He shifted uncomfortably. I didn't ask them to do this. But you didn't tell them not to either. He opened his mouth, closed it, then mumbled something about homework and disappeared into his newly spacious, distraction-free sanctuary. That night, I heard my parents talking in the living room. I was supposed to be asleep, but I'd come downstairs for water and stopped when I heard my name. Do you think we're doing the right thing? Mom's voice, soft and worried. He'll be fine, Dad said. Frank will toughen him up. And Cameron really does need the focus. His teachers say he's Ivy League material. I just feel bad. Don't. Trevor's always been the resilient one. He doesn't need us the way Cameron does. I stood there in the dark hallway, holding an empty glass and realized something. They actually believed that. They actually thought I needed them less because I complained less. Because I didn't demand private tutors or throw fits when I didn't get the new Xbox. Because I was the easy kid. And being easy meant being disposable. I went back upstairs, got into bed, and stared at the ceiling until the sun came up. A week later, Dad drove me 4 hours into the middle of farming country, the kind of place where the gas stations sell live bait and the closest Starbucks is a myth, and dropped me off at Grandpa Frank's farm. The driveway was gravel. The house was old, white paint peeling in places, with a wraparound porch that looked like it had survived several wars and a few natural disasters. Behind it, fields stretched out forever. Corn, maybe? I didn't know. I was a suburban kid whose greatest agricultural achievement was not killing a cactus. Grandpa Frank stood on the porch, arms crossed, wearing overalls that looked older than me. He was tall, lean, weathered in the way people get when they've worked outside their entire lives. Grandma Dorothy stood beside him, wiping her hands on a floral apron, looking softer but no less intimidating. Dad barely got out of the car. "Hey, Frank, Dorothy." He shook their hands quickly, then turned to me. "Be good, Trevor. Listen to your grandparents. We'll call soon." He hugged me. It felt obligatory. Then he got back in the car and drove away. Just like that. No, "I'll miss you." No, "We'll visit soon." Just gone. I stood there with my 2 suitcases, staring at the dust cloud his car left behind, and felt something crack inside my chest. "Well," Grandpa Frank said, his voice gravelly and low, "you gonna stand there all day, or you gonna come inside?" I grabbed my suitcases and followed them in. The house smelled like wood and coffee and something baking. It was small, clean, but worn. The kind of place where everything had a purpose and nothing was just for show. Grandma Dorothy showed me to my room, a tiny space with a twin bed, a wooden dresser, and a window that looked out over the fields. No posters, no decorations, just space. "Bathroom's down the hall," she said. "Dinner's at 6. Breakfast is at 5:30. I blinked. 5:30 in the morning? "Farm doesn't run itself," Grandpa Frank said from the doorway. "You'll be up with me, feeding chickens, checking the cows, fixing whatever broke overnight. Every day." "Every day?" I repeated. "Every day." He wasn't smiling. This wasn't a joke. "Welcome to the farm, boy." That first night, I unpacked my suitcases and sat on the edge of the bed, staring at my phone. No texts from my parents. Cameron had sent one message. "Good luck, bro." That was it. I pulled up Instagram, scrolled through Cameron's feed. There he was, smiling with his debate team, holding some trophy, standing in his newly rearranged room with better lighting and a caption that said, "New setup, new focus, big things coming." I turned off my phone and lay down in the dark. The house was quiet. Too quiet. No TV downstairs. No hum of the dishwasher. Just crickets outside and the sound of my own breathing. And that's when it hit me. I wasn't visiting. I wasn't on vacation. I was abandoned. At 15 years old, I'd been traded in for my brother's potential. I didn't cry. I wanted to, but I didn't. Instead, I stared at the ceiling and made a promise to myself. If they didn't need me, fine. I'd build a life where I didn't need them either. The alarm went off at 4:50 a.m. Not a gentle buzzing. A full-on screaming rooster that sounded like it was being murdered right outside my window. I jolted awake, disoriented, and for a moment forgot where I was. Then I remembered. The farm. Exile. My new life as the kid nobody wanted. I dragged myself out of bed, pulled on jeans and a hoodie, and stumbled into the kitchen. Grandpa Frank was already dressed, sipping black coffee from a mug that said, "I'm not retired. I'm a professional grandpa." He looked at me, raised an eyebrow. "You always dress like you're going to a funeral?" "It's 5 in the morning," I mumbled. "It's Tuesday," he said. "Come on." I followed him outside into the cold, dark morning. The sky was that weird pre-dawn gray where nothing looks real yet. The air smelled like dirt and dew, and something I couldn't name but that I'd later learn was farm. "Chickens first," he said, handing me a bucket of feed. "Spread it around the coop. They'll do the rest." I stared at the bucket. "That's it? You want a manual?" Fair point. I walked over to the chicken coop, a fenced-in area full of weird, judgmental birds that looked at me like I owed them money. I tossed the feed like I was feeding pigeons in a park. Not like that, Grandpa Frank called from behind me. Spread it, even, or the big ones eat it all and the small ones starve. They're chickens, I said. Does it matter? He gave me a look that could have curdled milk. Everything matters. I adjusted, spread the feed more carefully. The chickens swarmed like tiny feathered piranhas. Good, he said. Now collect the eggs. From where? He pointed. The nesting boxes. I walked over, opened one. A chicken was sitting inside, glaring at me. There's a chicken in here. Then move it. Move it? You want the eggs or not? I reached in slowly like I was defusing a bomb. The chicken pecked my hand. Ow! Grandpa Frank chuckled. Actually chuckled. She's just saying good morning. She's assaulting me. You'll live. I collected 6 eggs, got pecked 3 more times. By the time I was done, my hands were freezing and I developed a deep, personal hatred for poultry. But Grandpa Frank nodded. Not bad for day 1. It wasn't praise, but it wasn't criticism either. And somehow, that felt like something. Over the next few weeks, I learned the rhythm of the farm. 5 a.m. Wake up, feed chickens, collect eggs, check water troughs. 6:30 a.m. Breakfast. Usually eggs, ironic, toast, and coffee so strong it could wake the dead. 7:30 a.m. School bus. 1 hour ride into town. 3:30 p.m. Bus back. Homework in the truck while Grandpa drives to check fence lines. 5 p.m. Evening chores. Feed cows. Repair whatever broke. Haul hay. Repeat until exhausted. 8 p.m. Dinner. Collapse. It was brutal. But weirdly, honest. There was no pretending on a farm. A fence was either fixed or broken. The cows were either fed or hungry. You either did the work or things fell apart. Nobody cared about my feelings. And somehow, that was easier than my parents pretending they cared while shipping me off. One night, about a month in, I was sitting on the porch doing math homework by the porch light. Grandma Dorothy came out with 2 mugs of hot chocolate. Thought you could use this, she said, handing me one. Thanks. She sat beside me, rocking slowly in the old chair. You settling in okay? I shrugged. I guess. Your parents call lately? Once, 2 weeks ago. She hummed. Didn't say anything. After a while, I asked, did they tell you why they sent me here? She looked at me. Really looked at me. They said Cameron needed space. And you believed that? She smiled. Sad, but knowing. No, honey, I didn't. I felt my throat tighten. Then why didn't you say anything? Because, she said gently, sometimes people make bad choices, and the only thing you can do is make better ones. I stared at my hot chocolate. I don't know how. You're already doing it, she said. You showed up. You worked. You didn't quit. That's more than most people. I didn't know what to say, so I just sat there, drinking hot chocolate on a porch in the middle of nowhere, and felt the tiniest bit less alone. By month 3, I'd stopped checking my phone for messages from my parents. They called once a month. Always the same script. How's school? Fine. Making friends? Sure. Good, good. Well, Cameron made honor roll again. We're so proud. Cool. All right, sweetie. Love you. Be good. And that was it. No, we miss you. No, when are you coming home? Just updates on Cameron's achievements, delivered like they were reading a corporate newsletter. Meanwhile, Cameron's Instagram was thriving. New car at 17. Bright red. Bow on top. Caption. Mom and Dad came through, feeling blessed. I was on the farm, learning how to replace a carburetor on a 1987 tractor using a YouTube video and pure spite. On my 17th birthday, I got a card in the mail. Inside it said, "Happy birthday, Trevor. We're so proud of the young man you're becoming. Love, Mom and Dad." No call, no gift, just a card with a generic message that could have been written by a printer. Grandpa Frank, meanwhile, handed me a new pair of work gloves. "Yours are falling apart," he said. It wasn't wrapped. There was no card. But it mattered more than anything my parents had sent in 2 years. That night, I lay in bed and stared at the ceiling. And I realized something. I wasn't waiting to go home anymore. Because this, the farm, the work, the quiet, this was starting to feel more like home than anywhere I'd ever been. And that scared me. Because it meant letting go of the idea that my parents would wake up one day and realize they'd made a mistake. That they'd come back for me. That I mattered. But deep down, I already knew the truth. I didn't matter to them. Cameron did. And I was just the kid they sent away so their golden boy could shine. By the time I turned 16, I'd stopped thinking of the farm as punishment and started thinking of it as mine. Not legally, obviously, but in the way that matters, the kind of ownership that comes from bleeding into something until it bleeds back into you. I knew every fence post that leaned, every gate that stuck, every cow by name. And yes, before you ask, I absolutely named them. There was Bessie, obviously. But also Karen, she had opinions. Steve, don't ask. And one particularly angry heifer I called the IRS because she showed up uninvited and made everyone miserable. Grandpa Frank noticed the shift. One morning, while we were hauling feed bags from the truck, he said, "You're moving different." I looked at him. "What?" "You don't drag your feet anymore. You walk like you got somewhere to be." I shrugged. "Chores don't do themselves." He smiled, just barely. "No, they don't." That's when things started to change. See, up until then, I'd been following orders. Do this, fix that, feed them, check this. I was a worker, a decent one, sure, but still just following the script. Then Grandpa Frank did something unexpected. He gave me responsibility. Real responsibility. "Saturday mornings," he said one evening over dinner, "we sell eggs and produce at the farmer's market in town. I'm getting too old to haul all that by myself. You're doing it." I blinked. "By myself? You got a problem with that?" "No, Good. Be ready by 6 a.m. Grandma Dorothy smiled into her mashed potatoes. That Saturday, I loaded up the truck with crates of eggs, bags of potatoes, jars of Grandma's strawberry jam, and a hand-painted sign that said Sunrise Valley Farm, in letters that looked like they'd survived several wars. The farmer's market was held in the town square, a stretch of parking lot lined with pop-up tents, folding tables, and people selling everything from honey to homemade soap shaped like butts. Yes, butt soap. Rural America is wild. I set up our table between a guy selling firewood and a woman selling crocheted toilet paper cozies. She looked at me, smiled. "First time? That obvious?" "You'll do fine, honey. Just smile and don't undercharge." I nodded, trying to look like I knew what I was doing. By 8 a.m., people started trickling in. Older folks mostly, reusable bags in hand, asking questions like, "Are these free range?" And "Do you use pesticides?" I answered honestly. Sometimes I didn't know the answer and said so, but people seemed to appreciate that. By 10 a.m., I'd sold half the eggs. By noon, I was sold out. I counted the cash in the truck on the way home. $340. $340. In one morning. I stared at the bills like they might disappear. Grandpa Frank had told me to expect maybe $150 on a good day. When I got home, I handed him the cash. He counted it, raised an eyebrow. "You steal this?" "What?" "No," he chuckled. "Just messing with you. You did good, kid." Grandma Dorothy came out, wiping her hands on a towel. "How'd it go?" "Sold out," I said, still kind of stunned. She beamed. "I knew you would." That night, over dinner, I asked a question that had been itching at my brain all day. Why do people pay $6 for a dozen eggs when the grocery store sells them for $2? Grandpa Frank chewed his chicken slowly, thinking. "Because," he said finally, "they know where it came from. They trust it. That's worth more than cheap." I sat with that for a while. Trust. People were paying extra because they trusted us. And that's when the idea started forming. The next week, I did something without asking permission. I made a sign. Hand-painted, same style as Grandma's, but this one said, "Organic eggs, 7 dozen." Grandpa Frank saw it when I loaded the truck Saturday morning. Organic? He said, squinting. We're not certified organic. We don't use pesticides. We don't use chemicals. The chickens eat bugs and grass. That's organic. That's expensive. That's honest. He stared at me for a long moment. Then he shrugged. Your funeral. I sold out by 10 a.m. again. Made $420. People didn't just buy the eggs. They asked questions. Wanted to know about the farm, about the chickens. One lady even asked if she could visit sometime. We do tours? I asked Grandpa Frank when I got home. Do we? I mean, could we? He scratched his chin, looked at Grandma Dorothy. She smiled. I don't see why not. So we did. Started small. A couple families here and there. Kids who'd never seen a real chicken. Parents who wanted to teach their kids where food came from. I charged $10 per person. Gave them a tour, let them collect eggs, pet the calves. Sent them home with a dozen eggs and a jar of jam. It wasn't much, but it added up. Within 3 months, we were making an extra $800 a month. Grandpa Frank started calling me the business guy. I started calling myself that too. Around this time, 17 now, junior year, I started noticing something. Cameron's Instagram was slowing down. The posts were less frequent, the captions shorter. There was a photo of him at his desk, looking stressed, with the caption, Finals week, hitting different. Another of him in his car, staring at the camera with dead eyes. Senioritis is real. No more trophies, no more parties. Just a kid who looked tired. I didn't feel bad for him. Okay, maybe a little. But mostly I just felt separate. Like we were living in two different movies and his was losing steam while mine was just getting started. My parents called in December. Mom's voice was bright, false. Hi, sweetie, how are you? Good. School going well? Yeah, that's great. Listen, we wanted to let you know. Cameron got into state university, early acceptance. I waited for her to say something about me. She didn't. That's great, I said flatly. We're so proud. He's going to study business. Isn't that wonderful? Business. I almost laughed. Yeah, Mom, wonderful. Anyway, we're having a little celebration dinner this weekend. Just family. You're welcome to come if you want. If I want. Not, we'd love to see you or we miss you, if I want. I'm busy, I said. Oh, well, maybe next time. Sure. I hung up, stared at my phone. Then I opened my notes app and started writing down ideas. Delivery service, subscription boxes, online store. If Cameron was studying business, fine. I was living it. By the time I turned 18, the farm wasn't just surviving. It was thriving. We'd expanded the egg operation, added more chickens, started growing organic vegetables in a small greenhouse Grandpa and I built from salvaged materials and sheer stubbornness. I'd created an Instagram account, a Sunrise Valley Farm, posted photos of the chickens, the sunrise, the vegetables, behind-the-scenes stuff. People loved it. We got 800 followers in 2 months. Then I started taking orders online. Nothing fancy, just a Google form where people could request weekly produce boxes. $25 for a small box. $45 for large. Fresh eggs, seasonal vegetables, a jar of Grandma's jam. I deliver them myself every Saturday after the farmer's market. Started with 5 orders. By month 3, I had 23. I bought a used van for $3,000. White, dented, but it ran. Slapped a magnet sign on the side. Sunrise Valley Farm, fresh and local. Grandpa Frank stood in the driveway, hands on his hips, staring at the van. You're serious about this? Yeah. He nodded slowly. Good. Don't half-ass it. I won't. And don't forget to change the oil. I won't. And check the... Grandpa, I got it. He smiled. Clapped me on the shoulder. I know you do. That year, my senior year, I barely thought about my parents. Cameron graduated high school. There were photos, a big party, balloons, a cake that probably cost more than my van. I graduated too. Top 15% of my class. Not valedictorian, but solid. I invited my parents. Can you come? I asked over the phone. Silence. Then, oh, honey, Cameron's graduation is the same weekend. It's at the university. It's a big deal. So is mine. I know, sweetie, but his is, well, State University. It's a whole thing. I closed my eyes. Right. We'll make it up to you, okay? Maybe we can do dinner next month. Sure, Mom. We didn't do dinner. On graduation day, I walked across the stage in a rented cap and gown that smelled like mothballs and broken dreams. Grandpa Frank and Grandma Dorothy were in the audience. Front row. Cheering louder than anyone else. When I got my diploma, Grandpa Frank stood up and clapped like I'd just won the Super Bowl. Grandma Dorothy cried. And for a moment, I forgot my parents weren't there. Because the people who actually raised me were. After the ceremony, we went to a diner. Grandpa ordered pie. Grandma got coffee. I got a burger. Halfway through, Grandpa slid an envelope across the table. What's this? Open it. I did. Inside was a check. $5,000. I stared at it. Grandpa, I can't. Yes, you can, he said firmly. We've been saving it. For you. Do something smart with it. I looked at Grandma Dorothy. She nodded. You earned it, honey. I didn't know what to say, so I just said, thank you. Grandpa Frank raised his coffee cup. To the kid who showed up and didn't quit. We clinked cups, and for the first time in years, I felt seen. That summer, I enrolled in community college, agriculture business program. It wasn't Harvard. It wasn't State University. But it was mine. And with the $5,000 from my grandparents, I had a plan. I was going to turn Sunrise Valley Farm into something bigger, something my parents couldn't ignore, something Cameron's business degree couldn't touch. Because while he was learning theory in a classroom, I was building an empire in dirt and daylight. And I was just getting started. Community college wasn't glamorous. The campus looked like a mid-tier office park, had a baby with a DMV, gray buildings, sad landscaping, a parking lot that flooded every time it rained more than 10 minutes. But I didn't care, because while Cameron was posting Instagram stories from his dorm room with captions like, "College life hits different," I was sitting in Agricultural Business 101, learning how to actually run a profitable operation. And here's the thing. Nobody tells you about community college. The people there aren't pretending. No one's there for the experience. No one's trying to find themselves or join a frat or figure out their personal brand. They're there to learn a skill, get a job, and pay rent. It was the most honest education I'd ever gotten. My professor, Dr. Caldwell, a woman in her 60s who looked like she'd wrestled a tractor and won, took one look at my business plan and said, "This is good, but you're thinking too small." I blinked. Too small? You're doing farmers markets and deliveries. That's fine. But if you want to scale, you need partnerships, restaurants, grocery stores, institutions. I'm 19, I said. Who's going to take me seriously? She looked at me over her glasses. The person who shows up with a product they need and a price they can afford. Age doesn't matter, results do. So I started calling restaurants. Cold calls. Awkward, sweaty-palmed, stumbling over my words cold calls. Hi, my name is Trevor. I run Sunrise Valley Farm. We specialize in organic produce and free-range eggs. And I was wondering if... Click. Most hung up. Some were polite but disinterested. One guy laughed and said, "Kid, we have suppliers. Thanks, though." But then I called a little bistro in town called the Harvest Table. The owner, a woman named Claire, actually listened. "Organic, you said?" "Yes, ma'am. No pesticides, no chemicals. Eggs from chickens that actually see the sun." She paused. "How much?" I quoted her a price. Slightly below what she was paying her current supplier, but not so low I'd lose money. "Send me samples," she said. I did. A week later, she called back. "Your eggs are incredible. I want 10 dozen a week." I almost dropped my phone. 10 dozen? Is that a problem? No, I can do that. Great, let's start next Monday. I hung up and immediately panicked. 10 dozen eggs a week meant 120 eggs. Every week. Consistently. I did the math. We'd need to expand the chicken operation, build another coop, buy more chickens. That night, I sat down with Grandpa Frank and laid it all out. I need to expand, I said. Fast. He leaned back in his chair, thinking. How much you need? About $2,000 for materials, another $500 for chickens. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he stood up, walked to the drawer in the kitchen, and pulled out a small metal box. Inside was cash. A lot of it. This is from the farm, he said. Profits from the last 2 years. Was going to use it for a new roof. But the roof can wait. Grandpa, I can't. You can, he said. And you will. Because this isn't charity. It's investment. You make this work, you pay me back. Deal? I looked at Grandma Dorothy. She nodded. Deal, I said. We shook hands. 2 weeks later, I had a second chicken coop, 50 new chickens, and a contract with the harvest table that paid 180 a week. It wasn't life-changing money, but it was steady money, and steady money meant I could plan. Within 6 months, I had 3 more restaurant clients, a small cafe, a brunch spot, a farm-to-table place that charged $18 for avocado toast and called it artisanal. I didn't care what they called it. They paid on time. By the time I turned 20, Sunrise Valley Farm was bringing in $4,000 a month. Revenue, not profit. But still, $4,000. I was paying Grandpa Frank back $300 a month, reinvesting the rest into equipment, marketing, and expansion. I hired 2 part-time workers from town, a guy named Luis, who knew more about soil than I ever would, and a woman named Jen, who could fix literally anything with duct tape and spite. We were a team, small, scrappy, but real. And then, one Saturday morning at the farmer's market, I met Emma. She was standing by my table looking at the eggs when one of the chickens in the display crate, yes, I brought a live chicken for ambiance because I'm a showman, started making a weird noise. Emma's head snapped up. Is she okay? I blinked. What? Your chicken, she's wheezing. That's respiratory distress. I looked at the chicken. She did sound off. How do you know that? I'm a vet tech. She crouched down, peered at the chicken. You should get her checked out. Could be a bacterial infection. Okay, thanks. She stood up, smiled. No problem. I'm Emma, by the way. Trevor? Nice eggs, Trevor. Thanks. Nice. Vet knowledge, Emma. She laughed. And I swear to God it was the best sound I'd heard in years. We started talking. Not just about chickens, though there was a solid 10 minutes on poultry health that I found weirdly attractive. She told me she worked at a clinic just outside town. Loved animals. Grew up on a ranch in Wyoming. So you get it, I said. The farm thing. I get it, she said. Most people don't. Something in the way she said that made my chest feel weird. You should come by sometime, I said. The farm. See the operation. Is that your move? Inviting girls to see your chickens? Only the ones who diagnose respiratory infections at farmers' markets. She grinned. All right, I'll come by. And she did. The following Tuesday, she showed up in a truck that was older than mine, wearing jeans and boots and a flannel that made her look like she'd walked out of a country song. I gave her the full tour. Showed her the coops, the greenhouse, the fields. Introduced her to the IRS, the angry cow, who immediately liked Emma more than she'd ever liked me. You've built something real here, Emma said, looking out over the fields as the sun started setting. Trying to. No, she said. You have. This isn't just a farm. It's a business. A good one. I looked at her. Thanks. She looked back. And that's when I knew. This was someone who saw me. Not as the kid who got sent away, not as Cameron's brother, just me. We started dating a week later. It was easy, comfortable. Like we'd known each other way longer than we actually had. She'd come over after work, help with evening chores. Then we'd sit on the porch and talk until the stars came out. Grandma Dorothy loved her. Grandpa Frank said, and I quote, "She's got a good head on her shoulders. Don't screw it up." Romantic. Around this time, I was 21 now, something happened with Cameron. He posted a photo on Instagram. Just him, sitting in his childhood bedroom, looking exhausted. The caption? Taking a semester off. Need to regroup. No explanation, no details. Just off. I texted him. First time in months. You okay? He replied 3 days later. Yeah, just burnout. College isn't what I thought it'd be. I didn't know what to say to that, so I just sent, that sucks. Hope it gets better. He didn't reply. A week later, my mom called. First time in almost a year. Trevor, hi, how are you? I could hear the strain in her voice, the trying to sound casual thing. I'm good. That's great. Listen, I wanted to talk to you about something. Here we go. Cameron's going through a tough time. He's back home for a bit. And well, money's been tight with his tuition and everything, and we were wondering. I waited. If maybe you could help out. Just a little. We know you've got your farm thing going. Farm thing. I closed my eyes. How much? Maybe $5,000? Just to help us get through the semester. We'll pay you back. $5,000. The same amount Grandpa Frank gave me. The amount I'd turned into a business. I can't do that, Mom. Silence. What do you mean you can't? I mean, I don't have $5,000 sitting around. I'm reinvesting everything into the farm. But you're doing well, right? We saw your Instagram. Of course they did. I'm doing okay, but that doesn't mean I have cash to spare. Trevor, this is your brother. And you're my parents, who sent me away at 15 so he could have space, remember? Another silence. Longer this time. That's not fair. Isn't it? She sighed. Fine, we'll figure it out. She hung up. I sat there, staring at my phone, feeling a mix of guilt and anger and something else I couldn't name. Emma found me on the porch an hour later. You okay? My mom asked me for money. She sat beside me. What did you say? No. Good. I looked at her. Really? Yeah, they didn't invest in you. Why should you invest in them? Because they're family. Family shows up, she said. They didn't. She was right. I knew she was right. But it still felt like crap. That night, I made a decision. I wasn't going to keep waiting for my parents to see me. I was going to build something so big, so undeniable, that they couldn't ignore it even if they tried. And 6 months later, I did. I landed a contract with a regional grocery chain. 3 stores. Weekly deliveries of eggs, produce, and specialty items. The contract was worth $40,000 a year. I read the email 3 times to make sure it was real. Then I called Grandpa Frank. We did it, I said. Did what? We got the grocery contract. There was a pause. Then I heard him laugh. Actually laugh. Well, I'll be damned. That year, Sunrise Valley Farm brought in $120,000 in revenue. After expenses, salaries, and reinvestment, I cleared $35,000 in profit. I paid Grandpa Frank back every cent he'd loaned me. He tried to refuse. I made him take it anyway. This is yours, I said. You earned it. He looked at the check, then at me. No, son, he said quietly. You did. That Christmas, my parents sent a card. Generic, impersonal. No mention of the farm, no acknowledgement of anything I'd built. Just, Merry Christmas, love, Mom and Dad. I threw it in the recycling, because I didn't need their approval anymore. I had something better. I had proof. I was 25 when my parents showed up unannounced. Emma and I were in the greenhouse transplanting tomato seedlings when I heard a car pull into the driveway. Not just any car. My dad's SUV. I looked at Emma. She looked at me. You invite them? Hell no. We walked outside. My parents were standing by their car, looking around like they'd accidentally driven onto a movie set. Because the farm didn't look like it did when I was 15. There were 3 greenhouses now. The old barn had been renovated. New fencing, solar panels on the roof, a proper sign at the entrance. Sunrise Valley Farm, Esther 1987. My mom saw me first. Trevor! She hurried over, arms open for a hug. I didn't move. She stopped, dropped her arms awkwardly. Hi, Mom. Hi, sweetheart. It's so good to see you. You look healthy. Healthy? Cool. Dad walked up, hands in his pockets. Hey, son. Dad. Silence. Emma squeezed my hand. I'll be inside if you need me. She left. Smart woman. Mom cleared her throat. So, we've been hearing things. About the farm. About how well you're doing. From who? Cameron mentioned it. He saw something online. Of course. And we thought, Dad said, that we should come see for ourselves. After 10 years, Mom flinched. It hasn't been 10 years. Close enough. Another uncomfortable silence. Then Dad changed tactics, went into impressed parent mode. This place looks incredible, Trevor. Really. You've done something special here. Thanks. How much are you pulling in annually, if you don't mind me asking? Of course, that's what he wanted to know. Enough. We're just curious, Mom said quickly. We're proud of you. Are you? She blinked. Of course we are. Funny, I don't remember you being proud when I graduated high school, or when I started the business, or any time in the last decade. That's not fair, Dad said. Neither was sending me away at 15. He looked away. Mom's eyes got watery. We made mistakes, Trevor. We know that. But we're here now. Doesn't that count for something? Why are you here? They exchanged a look. And that's when I knew. Cameron, I said flatly. Mom nodded. He's struggling. The loans are crushing him. He can't find a job in his field. He's been living with us for 2 years now, and you need money. Dad straightened. We're not asking for charity. We're asking for help. Family helps family. I actually laughed. Family helps family. That's rich. Trevor, how much? Mom hesitated. 30,000 just to get him back on his feet. We'll pay you back. $30,000, more than I cleared in profit last year. No, Dad's face hardened. No? No. He's your brother. And you're my parents, who didn't show up for 10 years, who only care now because you need something. That's not true, Mom said, tears spilling over now. We love you. You love what I've built. There's a difference. I turned and started walking back toward the greenhouse. Trevor, wait, Dad called. I stopped, didn't turn around. We're trying, he said. We know we messed up, but we're trying. You're 10 years too late. I kept walking. They left 20 minutes later. Didn't say goodbye, just drove away. Emma found me sitting on the porch, staring at nothing. You okay? Yeah, she sat beside me. That was hard. It was necessary. She nodded. Didn't push. After a while, she said, So, speaking of family. I looked at her. She smiled. How do you feel about starting one? My brain short-circuited. Wait, are you proposing? No, you're doing that. I am? You better be. I laughed. Actually laughed. Okay, yeah, I am. Good. 2 months later, I proposed. Nothing fancy, just us, on the farm, at sunset. Same place we'd stood the first time she visited. I didn't have a speech prepared, just, I love you. I want to build a life with you. Will you marry me? She said yes before I finished the question. We planned the wedding for the following spring. Small. Intimate. 80 people max. Her family. Our friends. Grandpa Frank and Grandma Dorothy. The people who'd actually been there. I didn't invite my parents, Emma asked once, gently. Are you sure? Yeah. No regrets? None. And I meant it. The week before the wedding, my mom called. I almost didn't answer, but I did. Trevor, hi, it's Mom. I know. Right, listen, we heard you're getting married. Yeah? That's wonderful, honey, we're so happy for you. I waited. We were wondering, are we invited? There it was. No. Silence. What? You're not invited. Trevor, we're your parents. You weren't there for my life. You don't get to be there for my wedding. That's cruel. That's honest, Mom's voice cracked. Please, don't do this. I'm not doing anything, Mom. I'm just not pretending anymore. I hung up, blocked the number, turned off my phone, and that was that. The wedding was perfect. The weather cooperated. The flowers were beautiful. Emma looked like she'd stepped out of a dream. Grandpa Frank walked her down the aisle because her dad had passed a few years back. He cried. Actually cried. When Emma reached me, she whispered, "You ready?" So ready. We said our vows under an arch made of reclaimed barnwood and wildflowers. Her vows made me cry. Mine made her laugh. And when we kissed, the crowd erupted. 80 people who actually loved us. Not one empty chair. Not one person we had to beg to show up. Just love. During the reception, Grandpa Frank gave a toast. I met Trevor when he was 15, he said, voice steady despite his age. Angry, hurt, lost, and I watched him become the man standing here today. Not because of his parents, in spite of them. He raised his glass. To Trevor and Emma, may your foundation be stronger than the one you were given. Everyone drank. I hugged him. He whispered, "Proud of you, son." I whispered back, "I know." Later that night, after the dancing and the cake and the chaos, Emma and I stood alone on the porch of the farmhouse. The lights were strung up. The music was faint. The stars were out. "Think they'll ever forgive you?" she asked. "Maybe, but I don't need them to." "Good." She kissed me. And in that moment, I realized something. I'd spent so much of my life waiting to be seen by people who were too busy looking at someone else. But I didn't need to be seen anymore. I'd built a life, a farm, a family. And I'd done it without them. The Monday after the wedding, I posted one photo to Instagram. Emma and I, standing in front of the barn, smiling. The caption was simple. Built a life. Built a family. Built it all without the people who said I couldn't. Grateful for the ones who stayed. It got 3,000 likes. But the best part? Cameron commented. Just 3 words. Happy for you. And for the first time in 10 years, I believed him. Not because he'd changed, but because I had. I didn't need revenge, didn't need an apology, didn't need them to finally see me, because I'd already won. I'd built a life where I didn't need their light to shine. I was the sun. And they were just people I used to know. A week later, a letter arrived. From my mom. I almost threw it away, but Emma said, "Read it, just once, then decide." So I did. It was long, rambling, full of apologies and excuses and regrets. The last line said, "I know I can't undo the past, but I hope one day you'll let me be part of your future. I love you, Trevor. I always have." I folded it up, put it in a drawer. Didn't respond. Maybe one day I would, but not today. Today, I had a farm to run, a wife who loved me, and a life that was entirely, beautifully mine.